to another tutorial with the Essentials Club. If you are new around here, I am Maddie and welcome. Today we are going to be diving into making a beautiful tiered gathered dress with a tie strap feature. I feel like this is a super versatile number because in my mind I'm making it for a hot summer, which we are having at the moment in Australia, and it'll be nice and flowy and I can just wear to the beach and around town. But also I think it's so easy to layer up if you are in a colder climate and wear with some boots and maybe a little turtleneck underneath and then a jacket over the top of that. So no matter where you are and what weather it is at the moment, I feel like this is super suitable and easy to make. And if you want to follow along in making this dress, this is what you'll need to get started. You'll need some material. I would suggest something nice and lightweight, as the idea of this is to gather it and have it nice and flowy. So for me, I've just got like this kind of thin cotton white material. We will end up doubling it up around the chest area, so it'll prevent it from being see-through if it is quite a lightweight material. We'll then also need a measuring tape, some matching thread to your material, as well as the bobbin for that, a clean paintbrush or something long and thin that we can use to push out the straps when it gets to that point, some fabric scissors, some pins, and then we'll need our trusty old sewing machine. So before we jump into the steps of making this dress, I just want to say a massive thank you to the sponsor of today's video, which is Native. I've been using Native for the past few months now, which has honestly been so handy because it has been such sweaty and hot days here in Australia. So Native is a deodorant which is vegan and cruelty free, aluminium free, paraben and sulfate free. Their ingredients are clean, including familiar things like coconut oil and shea butter. Personally, I have tried many clean deodorants over the years, and most of them are that process where you have to use your fingers to scoop them out and apply them, and honestly that just doesn't sit right with me. Whereas Native, on the other hand, it comes in a tube, it's super easy to apply, non-sticky, and it also dries really quickly, which means that it is great for when you are on the go. Native also have a plastic-free packaging option, which as soon as I run out of these ones, I will be restocking in that. It's exactly the same formula, just in a more sustainable packaging. And as you know, around here, we are all about that. I got a few different scents, which makes it really handy because I'll always have one around home or in my bag, so no matter where I am, I can apply my deodorant. I got the coconut and vanilla, the lavender and rose, and the cucumber and mint, and they're all such really beautiful scents. But if I had to choose a winner, I'd probably say the freshness of the cucumber and mint is a standout for me. So normally 3 plastic-free deodorants are $39, but if you use my link and code, you will get them for $29, which is a savings of 25%. You can find all the details for this in the description box of this video below. Thanks so much again to Native for sponsoring this video, and now it's time to make our new dress. For the first step, we need to find out some key measurements so that we can cut out the front and back panels as well as the straps. So grab your measuring tape and we'll wrap it around our chest area, and we will find that circumference of there. You don't want to have it too tight, just so you can kind of shimmy it around a bit. And then we're going to add 4 inches to that measurement, and that will be the extra seam allowance plus a bit of extra moving room. So once you've found that full circumference plus the 4 inches, we're then going to halve that, and that will be the cutting width for our front and back panels of this top section. Write that measurement down and keep it aside and ready for when it's time to cut. And then we need to figure out how high we want this top section to be. For me, I'm just referencing this shirt, or you can just kind of go mid-chest as well. I'll start my measuring tape from there and measure down to where I want it to stop. I am going just above my belly button, and then add 2 inches to that height that we found, and that will be our cutting height. And then we need to find our strap measurements. I want mine to be quite thick. This is totally up to personal preference. You can do whatever you want for the final look. My final ones are going to be about 1.5 inches. So if I know that's my final width, I then double that and then add an inch for seam allowance. So whatever your final width you want your strap to be, double that and then add an inch for seam allowance. Again, write that down for your strap cutting width. And then we need to figure out how long we want this strap to be, because these will be tied up sections. They do need to be extra long. So start measuring from about mid-chest again, but over to the side, up to the top of your shoulder. And then you can add however much you want to create that extra tight effect. So for me, I added about 15 inches. So all up, my cutting length for the strap is 25 inches. Now that we have those measurements, it is time to cut out the panels. So let's first focus on the top panels. We're going to be cutting out enough for the front and back, as well as interfacing for each of them. So we'll end up cutting out 4 altogether. Grab your measuring tape and some measuring chalk and plot out your width and lengths of your panel. For me, mine was 18.5 inches wide by 10 inches high. So once I cut out that first one, I could then use that as a template to then cut out the final 3. So I have 4 all up. If you're worried about using the template process, you can just plot out the measurements for each one and then cut singularly as you go. So now that I have my 4 front and back panels, I put them aside, and then I'll use the rest of my material to cut out some strap sections. So again, we'll need 4 panels for the straps, as we'll have 2 for the front and 2 for the back, and they'll meet to tie up over our shoulders. That's 4 inches wide and 25 inches long for me, so I cut out 4 of those, and again cut out the first one and then just use that as a template to cut out the 3 following. Once we have all those panels cut out, we are then going to cut the angles on these top sections, because we're going for a straight effect, but in reality we need it to dip just a little bit under our arms to allow for some space for our armpit area there. So what we'll do is we'll grab our measuring tape, measure the distance we want it to go out to before the angle starts. For me, mine measured 10 inches. Yours might be different. It just is up to personal preference how wide you would like it to go. And then I'm just going to go 2 inches down because I only want it to be a small dip. But if for some reason you want to change it up and make it lower or even higher, you can just grab the measuring tape, put it under your armpit and measure down how far you would like it to go. 2 inches is just a safe amount where aesthetically it looks like it's kind of straight, but it just allows a bit of movement and room under there. We will then grab one of our panels, fold it in half so the good sides are facing. And because we've now got it on the fold, that measurement that we found that's for this chest area for where the angles begin, we only have to measure half of that because it's on the fold. So start from the center point and measure out your half chest amount. For me, that will end up being 5 inches, and put a dot point there. And then from that corner that is open, we then measure down 2 inches, and that's the amount from the underarm. And then you can just draw one line from each of those points, and that is us creating that angle that goes down under our arm. You can either continue plotting out the points on the rest of the panels, or again, you can just use this one that you've cut out, lay it on top of them all on the fold, and then cut it together, and then all the angles should be the same. Thank goodness I have some nice deodorant because it is so hot today. So sweaty and oily. Then we are up to the point of starting to assemble this garment. First we'll focus on the straps as they're nice and easy, and we need them ready to add into this front panel. Lay them down and then fold them so the good sides are facing. We'll then pin that in place, and we'll sew down one short side, one long side, and leave that other short end open. Repeat that for all 4 of them. And we're up to the point where we need to reveal the good side. So grab your paintbrush and align this at the end that we have sewn closed. Once you've got that in place, move around the strap fabric until you feel like it's kind of releasing, and then you can start pushing this closed end in through the strap and out through the open end, so you can now see the clean sides of the strap. If you want this to be any flatter than what it is, as it can get a bit puffy like this, you can use an iron just to flatten it out. You're going to begin inserting them into the panels and the interfacing. Lay this first panel, good sides facing up. Grab 2 of the straps. So we'll have one clean end, and that's one that we want to have out, and we'll have one raw edge. Align that raw edge with where that angle begins to go down. So we want it aligned with the flat section. Grab the other one and do the same on the other side. A little extra detail that you might want to keep in mind. Obviously these straps have a seam in them. I'm just keeping both of my seams to the outer edge, so then they just have a similar mirrored effect. So once you're happy with the placement of them, lay this second panel with the good sides also facing down so that all the good sides are facing. And it's a bit of a sandwiching process. And why we do this is because when we sew along these top sections and we flip it the good sides facing out, it means that you won't see any sewing lines, and it will just be a nice clean finish. And once you're happy with the alignment of that, we'll pin it in place. You might want to start where the straps are, pin them, pin all those other edges, and then we'll just be sewing 3 areas. One angle, one straight, and one angle. And then don't sew down those side edges, leave them as is. Once you've done this first section, we'll then repeat it for the other 2 straps and the other 2 panels. So once we have sewn along those top parts, we can grab the straps and reveal the good sides, and that's how the panel should be looking. We'll then lay this panel so that the good side's out. Obviously we've got the interfacing, so you can pick and choose which side you want to be the good side. Lay that so it's facing up. Grab the other panel that we have complete and figure out again which side you want to be the good one and face that down, so now both good sides are facing. We'll then pin down these side sections, making sure that the underarm section aligns. Sew one line down from the top to the bottom there, and again on the other side. And then once you reveal the good sides of that, you'll then have a cute little crop top, and that is what we'll then start adding the tiered sections on to create the full dress. Once you've sewn down those two side sections, you can flip it to reveal the good sides, and you now have this cute little crop top. With any of these tutorials that I show you, there is normally always other things you can make just by, stopping at this and making the crop top, or using skills from this that you can then go onto other projects. Once we're at this point, it might be a good time to try it on. Just make sure the fit of this top area is okay. If not, you might need to take it in or take it out a little bit, do whatever you need to adjust it to make sure that it fits nice and comfortable around there. And then when you've got it on, also tie up the straps to get them to the tightness that you want to wear them at. And then also, once you've got it on, we are going to figure out how much we need to add onto this section to create the dress. Again, this is down to personal preference. You might want to make a mini style. I'm going for quite a maxi length and just going to stop just before my ankle. So when I had it on, I grabbed my measuring tape, made sure that I was standing nice and tall, held it down to the point just above my knee so that I could then bend over and it wouldn't move. And then I measured down to my ankle, and for me that was 36 inches. And then I'm going to add 3 tiers on. So for every tier I need to add 2 inches of seam allowance. So if my length that I need to add on is 36 inches and I want to add 3 tiers, that is another 6 inches that I need to add, which makes it 42 inches. And then once I divide that by 3, that will be my cutting height for each of my panels. Then once you've got that measurement, we'll then need to figure out the width of these panels. So grab our measuring tape and then measure the bottom of this section that we'll be adding onto. I'm just going to do the front and back panels separately, so that is 18 inches. Again, this comes down to personal preference and how gathered you want it to be. For this first one, I'm going to times it by 1.5, so 18 inches times 1.5 then equals 27 inches. So for my front and back panels, I will then need to cut 27 inches by the height that I figured out. So I'm going to cut out 2 of them, then lay them good sides facing, and then sew down those 2 side seams. One line all the way around the top, making sure that we don't backstitch at the beginning or the end, and that we switch the machine to a looser tension and a larger length of stitch. That will just make it a lot easier when it comes time to gathering. Just sew one line all the way around that top section with those settings, and then we'll focus on one of the threads, begin to pull it so that it gathers, and then we can hold it up to the bottom of this top section to make sure that as we gather, it gets down to the point that we need to fit it onto this top. Once you've got it down to a point that it looks like it's starting to fit, we'll then flip it so that the good sides are facing of the top panel in this first tier. I suggest just adding 1 pin on each of the seam sections so that you know that they're aligned, and then you can adjust the gathering from there if need be. Once that's all matching, you can then pin it all the way around in place and then just sew one line, joining it so that you now have that first tier added in. Second tier, you pretty much repeat the same process. You measure now this new length at the bottom, times that by 1.5, or if you want to start making them less gathered, you can times it by 1.25, or if you want to make it really gathered, you can even double the length, but that just means that you'll need a lot more fabric, so just keep that in mind. Repeat those processes of measuring, timesing it by 1.25, sewing down those side seams, sewing that one line along the top so that you can then pull it in and gather it, attach it to the tier above it, and then continue that until you have filled in all that bottom section of your dress. Once you have finished adding all those tiers on, it's just a matter of going around and making any final adjustments like zigzag stitching or overlocking any raw edges, hemming that bottom section, and now you have yourself a new beautiful dress to go enjoy. It is so hot here today, like I mentioned. So glad that I have Native sponsoring this video and I can wear their deodorants and not stink out this place. But thank you so much again to Native, and don't forget about that deal which you can find in the description box below with my link and code, so that you can get that deal of the 3 plastic-free package deodorants for 25% off. If you did happen to follow along this tutorial, I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you did. I would love to see how your garment turned out, so please tag me at the Essentials Club on Instagram and I'll be sure to check it out. I cannot wait to go frolic around in this dress. It is such a beautiful number that I think is trans-seasonal as well. Like I mentioned earlier, you can layer it up or just pair it back during those warmer months. Another simple and sustainable essential to add into my wardrobe, which I'm so excited about. Wherever you are, I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'm gonna go try on my new dress now.